chapter begins by saying that this is a story that occurred in a Colorman, a land south of Narnia. And Narnia during the golden age of Narnia when Peter and his siblings were king and queens. To begin with this chapter, Sashta is a young boy who lives in a Colorman with his supposed father, a fisherman named Archis. Sashta is treated as a servant and he has a large of number of household chores and responsibilities. Archis is sometimes kind and patient with Sashta, but other times he is so very harsh and cruel. Sashta knows nothing of the land to the north, but it is very interested in it. The land to the south does not interest him. One day, a visitor arrives, Atarkaan, a great lord from the south. The visitor says with Archis, who sends Sashta out of the cottage for the night. Sashta then overheard the Tarkaan and Archis discussing about Sashta. Archis tells the Tarkaan that they had found Sashta in his dead father's arms in a lifeboat on the river. This explains why Shasta is more pale than other from Colorman. He is not native to the areas. The Tarkaan and Archis then bargain, negotiate to have Sashta to sold to the Tarkaan. Sashta goes to the stable and speaks to the horse on which the Tarkaan had arrived, saying that he wished he know what kind of man the Tarkaan was. To Sashta's surprise, the horses replies to him. The horse says that it is from Narnia but had been kidnapped long ago. The horse says that the Tarkaan is a cruel man and that this is the chance for both of them to escape. They wait until it is night and both of the Tarkaan and Archis are asleep. Sashta takes the saddle from the stable and puts it on the horse, following horse's instructions. This is the first time Sashta has ridden a horse, and the horse gives him some lessons. The horse says that its name is Break for short. The two leads us Paul's trail to the south, but then head north without leaving a trail. After a week of traveling toward Narnia, Bree hears another horse and rider nearby in the forest. Bree tries to avoid them, but the sounds of a lion roars drives the two horses and riders closer together. After the lion stops chasing them, Bree hears the other horse speak. Win is a talking mare, and her rider, Aravis, is the runaway daughter of wealthy Tarkaan. They are also running away to the Narnia, so Bree supposed that all the four of them travel together. When the four companions arrive at the great city of Tashbaan, their plans are disrupted. Shasta is mistaken for a young prince and picked up off the street by Narnian nobles who are visiting color men. Sashta is taken back to the Narnians' guest quarters and overhears their decision to flee from Colorman before they are forcibly detained. He also hears about a secret passage from the Colorman Desert into Arkenland and on to Narnian, which he commits to memory for his own upcoming journey. While the adults are out of the room, the real Prince Corin of Arkenland returns. Sashta switches place with him and climbs out of a window to go to with his companions. He leaves Tashbaan at sunset and has a to stay the night near to the tombs of the ancient kings of tombs of frighten him. But Sashta is comforted by a cat and stays with him and breasts it back again him while he sleeps. The next morning, as Sashta wonders how long he should wait at the tombs of his friend to join him, a color manservant leads Bree and Wim out of the tombs. The story box starts to tell what happens to Aravis while Sashta is with Narnians. Immediately after Sashta is taken away, Aravis' old friend, Lasa Larin, recognizes her in the street. To avoid further notice, Aravis joins Lazaralin and goes home with her. Aravis needs to get out of Tashbaan with horses, and Lazaralin says Aravis can escape the city through an exit in this Tersox garden. The Tersox is the king of color men, and the two girls find themselves in danger when they sneak into place at night. That is Rock and his son, Prince Rabadash, walk into the room where the girls are hiding, and they overheard Prince's plans to attack Arkanland and Narnia. Aravis escapes from the place undetected and meets up with Sashta and the horses at the tombs. The four companions travel through the desert to warn the Arkanlanders of the impending attacks. They are nearly overtaken by Rabadash cavalry on the second day. The horses gallop to stay ahead of the shoulder, and they are forced to run even faster when the lion begins chasing to them. The lion claws Aravis' back but leaves the rest of the group alone. It eventually goes away. Sashta finds that they have arrived at the home of Hermit of the Southern March. The Hermit welcomes Aravis and the exhausted horses, but he tells Sashta that he must run onward without rest to warn King Lune of Arkanland. The Hermit of the Southern March watches the battle while gazing into a magic pool. The Narnians win and Sashta survives. Aslan visits Aravis, Bree, and Win and explains some parts event to them. When Aslan departs, Sashta comes back to Aravis. Sashta is actually Prince Corin's older twin brother, who was stolen away from Arkanland in his fancy. His real name is Prince Cor, and he invites Aravis to live at the court of Arkanland with his family. In Arkanland, King Lune and King Edmund prepare to pass sentence on Prince Rabadash. Aslan warns Rabadash to repent of his wrongdoings, and when he refuses, Aslan turns him into a donkey. Rabadash is sent to Tashbaan, where he becomes human again. The trouble is over, and Bree and Win go to Narnia while Cor and Aravis stays in Arkanland. When the children become adults, they get married and eventually become a king and queen of Arkanland. The Hermit of the Southern March watches the battle while gazing into a magic pool. The Narnians win and Sashta survives. Aslan visits Aravis, Bree, and Win and explains some parts event to them. When Aslan departs, Sashta comes back to Aravis. Sashta is actually Prince Corin's older twin brother, who was stolen away from Arkanland in his fancy. His real name is Prince Cor, and he invites Aravis to live at the court of Arkanland with his family. In Arkanland, King Lune and King Edmund prepare to pass sentence on Prince Rabadash. Aslan warns Rabadash to repent of his wrongdoings, and when he refuses, Aslan turns him into a donkey. Rabadash is sent to Tashbaan, where he becomes human again. The trouble is over, and Bree and Win go to Narnia while Kor and Aravis stays in Arkenland. When the children become adults, they get married and eventually become a king and queen of Arkenland.